The battle between Gohan and Cell comes to a head, as Goku's sacrifice wasn't quite enough to stop the bio-android. Now that he's back, Gohan and Cell fire Kamehamehas at each other in one final tug of war for the sake of the Earth. The battle ends now. Cell's laugh was only drowned by the hums of the Kamehameha, pushing back and forth between the two sides. Gohan hears his father's words of encouragement, yet the boy continues to lose hope. With a broken arm and spirit, there is no hope left for the Saiyan, but Vegeta launches a Keyblade at Cell, hoping to distract him and give Gohan the chance to defeat him in revenge for Trunks' death. But instead of allowing the blast to distract him, Cell opens his aura again, pushing Vegeta and his blast back. Goku continues to tell Gohan to push forward, but it's not enough. Cell's Kamehameha pushes through Gohan, the blast rampaging through the boy, killing him and causing all of Earth to shake. He did say that Gohan and Earth would be destroyed after all. Cell rushes out into space as Vegeta and the others tried to follow, but it was too late. The planet was obliterated, everyone being sent to King Yama's world. Cell cackles in the emptiness of space, watching those beautiful fireworks. But slowly something akin to sadness comes over him. He was alone now. What could he do? Who would he go after? It's not like Dr. Gero ever investigated much further than Earth. But he felt an intense urge to battle, his aura once again sparking up. He first wanted to take a small visit to someone. Cell smirked, placing 2 fingers on his forehead and appearing in an entirely new area, other world. He heard the gasps of Goku and King Kai as they both turned around, standing in a rock formation alongside Snake Way. Cell looked around. This place really was a dump. Oh wait, that was because King Kai's planet blew up. Sorry about that. Goku stood in front of King Kai, cursing to Cell.
You monster! I'll never forgive you! Gohan, Chi-Chi, Krillin, they're all gone because of you!
You're forgetting someone, Goku. You! And with that, the dream of Dr. Gero is complete. I live on as the ultimate being. Don't worry, I didn't come here to kill you again. Just to tell you...
Huh?
That just like I am Gero's legacy, I am your legacy too. You live on through me. I will continue fighting strong people and becoming even greater. I will challenge foes you could never have dreamed of. So don't be sad, Son Goku. Watch on.
Why you? I'll defeat you right here!
But as Goku rushed forward, Cell teleported back to where Earth used to be. Goku screamed in pure anger and rage. This really was it. Nothing more they could do. They failed. But when Cell returned to the living realm, he realized he had locked onto a strange presence. There shouldn't be anyone alive. What could that be? That's when he saw something. A strange cloud floating around what used to be Earth. He descended towards it, watching it as it began reforming into a pink blob. Cell cocked an eyebrow and was surprised to sense just how powerful that thing was. He couldn't believe that Earth was hiding something so strong. In the original manga, when talking about destroying Babidi's ship, Shin says that even if he was born early, Buu would still be able to kill them all. However, Shin overestimates all the villains and underestimates all the heroes. If born early with no killie taken, he'd likely be around Perfect Cell's power. Cell questions Buu on who he is, and the blob would simply say his name is Buu, and he wants some candy. The android told Buu that there isn't much of candy around anymore, but he is more interested in his power. Buu starts to get angry about the lack of candy, but then he looks around, realizing that there's actually candy all over the place. What used to be Earth now is an asteroid field, and Buu simply used his candy beam on the lot of it. Instead of being surrounded by asteroids now, they were now surrounded by candy. Cell looked at Buu in terror. What kind of power was this? As Buu shoved food in his mouth, Cell yelled at Buu to show him his power. He wants to battle him. Buu was annoyed, so he simply whipped his tentacle at Cell along with a candy beam, with Cell just barely managing to dodge. Cell rushed forward, striking Buu in the stomach, only for Buu's chest to expand back and bounce Cell backwards. Buu finally gave in and started to battle Cell. Cell could never imagine a power like this. If only Dr. Gero had been able to see him and implement his cells into an android. The fighters came to a standstill, with Cell realizing that he just simply could not beat Majin Buu at this state. Buu's regeneration and body manipulation was too advanced. Cell knew he had to get stronger. He was the perfect being. He could get there. Cell stops the fight and tells Buu that if he waits for him, he'll come back even stronger and challenge him to a battle of the ages. But Buu was already annoyed, rushing towards Cell only for Cell to teleport far, far away, leaving the confused Buu with millions of sweets. Cell appeared at a random planet where the natives were terrified of his presence, but Cell simply stood there thinking, where would he go? There were surely planets with Frieza Force soldiers he could fight and absorb to get stronger. Perhaps he could challenge the Namekians into fusing altogether or visit planet Yardrat. Whatever the case, he simply needed to get stronger. Cell rushed into the depths of the solar system, looking for anyone he deemed as powerful enough to battle against. Cell teleported all over the universe, trying to find anyone with powerful ki. From here, we have a few options, because depending on where Cell ends up, he might actually find himself with an early demise. Universe 7 has less than 30 planets with inhabitants, so he will eventually go to some of these planets regardless. If he went to a relatively planet, such as Planet Cereal, he would likely wipe them all out, as he tries to find someone powerful. Most likely getting to Granola fast enough where he couldn't make the wish. If he went to Planet Namek early and challenged the Namekians into fusing, then the Namekian savior would likely kill him if he doesn't kill enough Namekians early on. For the sake of our story, we will continue with a specific path forward. The first planet our green friend visits is Planet Yardrat. At Planet Yardrat, he found many beings with strange powers, and though he was able to surprise them with his instant transmission, none of them were much threat power-wise. At first, they comment on how they thought it was Goku just based on ki alone. This bothers him a little bit. He didn't like being compared to such imperfect beings. He fought against them, and defeated as many as he could until he got bored. In Dragon Ball GT, Perfect Cell is able to use his tail to absorb beings, and with so much free time, I think Cell would probably learn to do so if he can't already, and absorb as many Yardrats and other beings. He gets stronger, but his thirst is not quenched. Pibara, however, showed him something strange: forced spirit fission. Thankfully for Cell, once he regenerated from blowing himself up, he regenerated a super perfect Cell with no 18 inside of him. While it is presumed that 17 was killed when Cell blew himself up at King Kai's planet, so he can't be taken out of super perfect Cell, meaning this Cell is what we get. No turning back. But as soon as he becomes aware of his ki being taken away, he attacks Pibara with all his might. Though Pibara's tricks are impressive, he still stands nothing against the mighty Cell. He was able to learn instant transmission in seconds, so he can likely learn Force Spirit Fission that easily as well. Even so, he has some trouble against Pibara when he duplicates himself and when he turns giant. But Cell can at least duplicate himself too, using every single one of his clones to gang up on the giant Pibara, eventually defeating him, leaving him inches from death. Cell would destroy the Yardrats while learning some of their techniques, likely destroying the planet as he flies away once more. Cell would then take some time to recover before searching for the next target. Cell continues through the universe, sensing powerful opponents. One of the many worlds that catch his attention is Planet Zune, a planet full of fairly powerful people, but none of them stand out to Cell necessarily. He battled out against many of them, absorbing them, until finally a few beings became aware of his presence. From the shadows emerged a small wizard and a tall demon. Babidi and Dabra chuckled as they made their presence known. Babidi saw potential in this bug-like creature, but above that, it was finally the perfect time to test their newest recruit, Pui Pui. Pui Pui cracked his knuckles and stepped forward, explaining that they were in his home turf, and therefore he had the advantage. Cell smirked as he rolled his eyes, taunting Pui Pui into attacking. The Zunjin jolted forward, slamming his fist against Cell, but the android barely moved, asking if it was now his turn. Pui Pui's face turned into one of terror as Cell kneed him in the stomach, pointed his arm at him, and blasted Pui Pui into bits. Babidi couldn't believe his eyes. While Dabura created a sword from thin air and proposed to kill Cell for his insolence, Babidi stopped him. Cell sensed something was strange. His eyes went blank, and he began to hear voices in his head, whispering to him about how he knows he wants even more power. Cell relaxed his muscles as he allowed Babidi to take his will. Babidi whispered how he was the most perfect being in the universe, but everyone could use a little bit of help every now and then. A dark M appeared on Cell as he realized something. The M on Dabura, Pui and himself was just like the one on that monster's belt, whom he had fought on Earth. He didn't reveal this. His will, just like Vegeta's, was strong enough to contest the mind control, but he could use this power. Babidi continued to explain that their plan was to revive Majin Buu, who remains dormant on Earth. Cell gulps nervously, realizing just what he had done. Cell finally says that they should head to Earth ASAP, because that planet is no more. But Majin Buu is safe. Babidi gasped. Majin Buu was freed? But without sufficient Kili, surely he was useless. Babidi was getting angry at Cell, but what he needed to do now was find Buu as soon as possible. This would all work in Cell's favor. With his new power, he could surely defeat the pink blob. Babidi still treated Dabura like his right-hand man, as Cell made his ki a little bit more dormant for now. But if he powered up to the max, he would easily overcome Dabura. They arrived at the site of the destruction of Earth, with Buu finally going through the last few bits of candy. Babidi couldn't believe this was Majin Buu. He looked at him carefully. Sure, he was strong, but not that much stronger than Dabura at this point. Babidi gulped. He approached Buu slowly, telling the pink blob that he was his master, but Buu ignored him. Yet Babidi was persistent, to the point where Buu was getting annoyed and stuck his tongue out at him. Dabura, angry at his insolence, told Babidi that they shouldn't waste any time with his pink blob, only to be struck across the face by Buu. Babidi tried to gain control of Buu, but it was to no avail. Cell smiled, as this was exactly what he wanted. Dabura rushed towards Buu, as did Cell. The two teamed up against the monster, and though they had the advantage in numbers, Buu's abilities were unpredictable. Buu continued to get angry as Dabura sped on him, but Buu simply ripped part of his own body that was turning into stone to the side. Buu took the chance to extend his tail and pierce Buu, absorbing some of him. But as Cell could feel himself getting stronger, the stinger was starting to get consumed by Buu's body. Dabura jumped in, slicing through it and freeing Cell. The two then teamed up in a combo of punches and kicks, deforming him into smithereens. But Buu retorted with a candy beam at Cell. The cunning bio-android grabbed Dabura and launched him into the candy beam, using him as a shield and rushing forward through the Dabura cookie. Cell had to be fast. Buu's regeneration was too strong, but as he charged his final Kamehameha at the recovering Buu, Majin Buu fired his own, destroying most of the android. Buu celebrated as Babidi finally declared that they could go around the universe getting more candy if he wants, as long as he listens to him. The two of them argue, as Buu didn't want to go with him. Unknowingly, from behind, the shine of a blue beam began to glow, as from a single cell, the android began to regenerate, even stronger than before. With a final solar Kamehameha, Babidi's eyes widened as he told Buu to turn around. It was too late. Cell fired the massive blast, which obliterated Buu. But Cell knew of Buu's regeneration already, using the chance to explode his aura in order to catch all of what could be left of Buu. As he watched him slowly start to regenerate, he extended his arms out, the ki around him expanding ever forward. And as if it was the creation of a new universe, the energy began to consume everything around it, disintegrating every piece of Buu. He had done it. He had gotten rid of Majin Buu. Babidi's eyes twitched in anger as he slowly came to Cell, threatening to kill him if he didn't do what was told of him. Cell simply spun on his heel and sliced clean through Babidi, blowing him away. He could feel a massive power-up from this destruction as the M on his forehead disappeared. Cell smiled. He had already surpassed all of the Z fighters and could only get stronger from here. Some of you may be wondering if the only way to destroy Buu was with the Spirit Bomb. But there was multiple times during the Buu saga where people said that Buu was about to get killed. One of them was with a Kamehameha from Gotenks, when Buu was all messed up, a very similar situation to this. Over the next few years, Cell would traverse the universe looking for powerful warriors, but there was no one that could really rival his power anymore. He was even the subject of some attacks by the Galactic Patrol, but just like Frieza before him, after a few moves they realized they couldn't compete with him. He even found parts of the Frieza Force like Sorbet and his soldiers, whom he disposed of quickly. It was at times like this, when there was long periods of time with no one to rival him, where Cell was stuck alone in his own head. That boy, Gohan, surpassed him for a while. Buu as well was stronger than him. Every step along the way there was someone better, but he was perfect, wasn't he? He had to shake these feelings off. One day, however, he was approached by someone new, someone who had just woken up. The god of destruction, Lord Beerus. Beerus appeared before Cell as he destroyed the remainders of Frieza Planet 79. Cell cocked an eyebrow. He couldn't sense this person's ki, but the way he presented himself made it clear that he was important. Beerus slowly walked around Cell, looking at him and examining him. Clearly he was admiring perfection. But Beerus yawned, saying that he became aware of him because he visited Goku in Otherworld, looking for the Super Saiyan God. He was disappointed to hear that Earth was destroyed along with every other Saiyan. It got in the way of his plan. Cell scoffed, saying that whatever that Super Saiyan God, it couldn't compare to the super perfection of Cell. Beerus laughed, saying that he'd love to see that, wiggling his finger to signal him to attack. Cell was angered by this, and threw a right hook with all his might. Beerus was disappointed and reappeared behind Cell, flicking him through a castle. Cell's whole world shattered for a second. This was the first person to hurt him in so many years. Cell continued to try to attack, but it was useless. When Cell began to get worn down, Beerus finally said he didn't really care much for this human idea of perfection. He didn't want to kill him either though. He reminded him of Frieza. He was entitled, full of himself, and with him being dead and all, he could use a new Frieza. He offered this suggestion to Cell. He could work for him and destroy planets around in his stead. In exchange, he wouldn't kill him. Cell hated to admit it, but if he wanted to someday surpass this guy, then he would have to accept. Cell accepted under one condition. He would get to spar with Beerus regularly, in order to improve. Beerus, as he turned around to leave, chuckled. He commented on how Cell was a glutton for punishment, but he agreed they would meet again someday. As Beerus and Whis left, Cell was left with a new goal, and above that, an idea. He had to find whatever this new Super Saiyan God was, or at least get close to it. Cell visited planets, challenged beings, and destroyed them for Beerus. He grew stronger, sure, but he was dissatisfied. Every time he made a breakthrough, it meant nothing. His biggest weakness against Beerus was the fact that he couldn't sense him. That was where he should start. Cell headed towards Namek, with the knowledge of the Namekian Dragonballs. But Goku watched on Cell from the other world, as he begged King Kai to do something. He had asked King Kai previously if they could get the Namekians to wish for Earth back, if they could do something to get their help, but King Kai shook his head in sadness. King Kai doesn't like to intervene in the first place, as shown through the future in the Cell arc. But above that, now Beerus is involved.
You don't know this, but the universe isn't so naive, Goku. There are beings that exist for this very reason. If it gets too far, Lord Beerus will handle it. I'm sorry.
Goku cursed, but he said they had to do something, anything, at least warn them. King Kai gulped, but finally agreed to warn Murray, contacting him and telling him to rile their forces as soon as possible and gather the Dragon Balls in case of trouble. Murray was terrified, telling his warriors to hide around him just in case. Cell headed towards Namek with the knowledge of the Namekian Dragon Balls. By sensing ki, he teleports over to Murray. Murray ran outside, excited to sense the ki of Goku, Gohan, and the others. Could it be? Did they come to help? But he was surprised to see the bio-android. Cell scowled, angry to be mistaken by those heroes again. But Cell demanded to have the Dragon Balls, otherwise he'd kill them all. Murray gritted his teeth, explaining that he must be the monster King Kai had contacted them about. He was going around destroying planets, huh? Murray warned Cell that if he attempts anything, they will use their forbidden technique, and he will not survive. Cell laughed as he took steps forward. This would be more fun than he thought.
I know all about your Namekian fusion technique. I promise you, this will only be more enjoyable for me.
While looking directly in Murray's eyes, Cell rose his hand up to the house, firing a ki blast that revealed several Namekian warriors hiding behind it, instantly killed in the explosion. Cell went on to say that if he wanted to save his people, then he would not only hand him the Dragon Balls, but also bring their best soldiers for battle. Every minute he doesn't comply, more soldiers will die, once again firing another blast at a house, this time getting a handful of civilians. Murray shakes as he sweats profusely. It is because of this man that Dende was dead. He clenched his fist. Cell was going to blast again, but Murray yelled at him to stop, as he finally told all his fighters to come out. Dozens of the Namekian warriors stepped forward, ready to take on Cell together. But Cell wagged his finger in a no. He didn't want to fight these weaklings individually. That would be no fun. He needed their full power. He needed them to fuse. The warriors were insulted. How could this bugman be so cocky? Murray, however, knew that it wasn't merely a bluff, giving them a nod to let them know that it was time. The warriors lined up, placing their hands on a single one as they became energy and disappeared into the main warrior. His power rocks the planet. It is really impressive. But this is a Cell that has much more experience, much more power than the one we know and love. This Cell is yearning for a challenge like this. Murray retreated with the kids, as the Namekian savior and Cell clashed in the air. Booms were heard across the planet as water swirled around, causing floods. He really had underestimated this opponent, as he was actually hit by quite a few of the attacks. They hurt, but it was nothing he couldn't handle. He had fought Lord Beerus after all. Cell used everything he had learned over the past few years to figure out this Namekian. He was obviously powerful, but he didn't have the experience and power of the many people that formed Cell. The android mocked the fused Namekian as the battle ramped up, but Cell had his fun. This was the strongest being he had ever faced in a while. He was getting hurt. He lived for this, but he needed those Dragon Balls. Cell grabbed the Namekian by the face, dragging something out of him, one of the Namekians who had fused into him previously. Cell was using Force Spirit Fission to wind down the fusion, killing each Namekian he took out until there was a single one left. It was over. Murray covered the village children as the terrifying android took steps towards him. Without a choice, Murray handed over the Dragon Balls to Cell. But Murray knew that the Namekian language was needed to make a wish. They were just simple rocks without that. But to his disdain, Cell began to speak his people's language. Cell knew the Kamehameha from Goku's cells. I think it's fair to say that he would know Namekian from Piccolo's. Thus, Porunga was summoned. Cell continued on with his wishes, first asking to know about the so-called Super Saiyan God. Porunga explained the legend, much to the disappointment of Cell. He didn't have 5 Saiyans laying around to get that power, but there was more he could still do. He could use Porunga's power to unlock his hidden potential. He felt his strength skyrocket. He really had gotten stronger, but he would have to test it later. He finally thought of a last wish, asking Porunga where he could find his next powerful opponent. Porunga did the OK sign and said the location, Vampa. Cell smiled. Finally, more adventures ahead. He really was letting his Goku side out. Before he left, Cell turned back to blast Murray, killing him and ensuring that the Dragon Balls would not be used against them. Cell took a bit of time to recover from the battle, before heading out to have a match with Lord Beerus. Beerus was annoyed to be woken up by Cell calling for Whis, but granted the android a battle. This would be the first time Cell used the power gifted to him by Porunga. Cell powered up to his new state, as the spots covering his body disappeared, but his power burst to the max. It was incredible. He would have had a much easier time with the Namekian if he had this beforehand. Surely, he would defeat Beerus the Destroyer. Beerus couldn't finish yawning as he received a fierce punch to the face from Cell. Surprisingly, it seemed that power gap had been a little closer now, since Beerus was sent flying around his planet, crashing into different trees and structures. Beerus came out of the rubble, furious, but once he recollected himself, he smirked, curious about Cell's newfound power. This would actually be interesting. Cell launched himself towards Beerus. He did the same, and the two began to clash fists and kicks, sending shockwaves around the planet. Beerus was having the time of his life, but he could tell by Cell's smug expression that the bio-android was getting ahead of himself, so he might need some humbling. Beerus's power burst as he threw a punch. Cell blocked it, but he could feel his arm shattering at the mere contact. Flabbergasted, he decided to make some distance between himself and the God of Destruction, kicking him with great strength, not to injure him, but to propel himself away. Cell painfully regenerated his arm as he started to see the God with other eyes. Cautiously, Beerus asked Cell if he gave up yet, but Cell answered no. He was just starting to have fun. Cell rushed towards Beerus, and when the Destroyer was about to attack him, Cell evaded by cloning himself in 3, with every single clone landing a devastating kick on Beerus. He didn't expect it. It was clear that they weren't as powerful as the real deal, so he started to effortlessly fight the trio of clones, evading most of the attacks and landing most of the hits. Once the clones joined together again, Cell headbutted Beerus in a surprising move, being able to land it right on his forehead. The Destroyer, out of sheer anger, returned the headbutt with even more fierce force, cracking Cell's crystal. Taking advantage of the close distance between them, Cell launched a solar flare to blind Beerus, and he took the advantage to throw a kick, but Beerus evaded it without even looking. Cell threw even more attacks, but Beerus was evading them. in a strange way, kinda like his body was moving on its own. Cell waited until he had Beerus on the ropes, in a place where he couldn't avoid any attacks, to launch a Kamehameha with all of his strength. Things went his way, as Beerus wasn't able to dodge it, and was hit with full force. Cell poured all his energy into it, and when he thought he had finally won, that there was no chance Beerus could recover from this, the beam cracked and exploded as Beerus released more power in his hand to break it with sheer pressure. Cell was in shock. Was he really that strong? Beerus burst up against the beam and punched Cell square in the jaw, knocking him out of his potential unleashed state. And as Cell panted, he sighed. He couldn't believe it. He hated himself for having lost. It was fun, but it wasn't what he was looking for. Beerus was too ahead of him still. Would he ever get that excitement, like the battle he had against that Saiyan brat? He looked up to see Beerus giving him a hand up. Beerus didn't like Cell. Not really. But he respected him and his power. Cell stood up, only to turn around and start walking away. Beerus asked Cell where he was going now. Have to recover from this. Then go to planet Vampa. I need to get strong.
Vampa, eh? Whis, what's there?
Just spiders, green monsters, and oh, what's this? 2 Saiyans.
Beerus cocked an eyebrow and smiled. This should be interesting. It took a bit of time, but Cell finally recovered from his match against Beerus. He was angry that he couldn't match up against them. Hopefully, this next battle will be what he was looking for. That edge he got while fighting Gohan. That's what he needed. Cell made it to Vampa, where he found very little of interest. That was until he sensed the key of a man. Cell approached him cautiously, and the man was scared. He was clearly a Saiyan, but he seemed old and tired. He couldn't be the strong warrior, could he? But perhaps he had hidden power like Gohan. Paragus took steps away from Cell, but Cell lifted his finger up to blast them, only to have Paragus scream out,
Broly!
From out of nowhere, a powerful Saiyan slammed against Cell, crashing into a mountain. Cell opened his eyes to be met by the green aura of Broly. He was strong, sure, but he could take him on. The two began to battle, as Paragus cheered on Broly, but Cell was clearly in the upper hand. Even still, he could feel there was more to him than what met the eye. Cell stopped the fight, as Broly panted. He was already getting angry, but in control. He even questioned who the hell he was. Cell explained that his name was Cell, and that he was looking for a powerful warrior to fight against. And clearly, that man was Broly. Broly didn't want to fight, which made Cell chuckle. This reminded him of the battle on Earth long ago.
You don't have a choice now, Broly. I yearn for this battle. I know you're hiding more power. Show me, or I will destroy this planet and you along with it.
Broly was getting angrier, his power rising. Exactly what Cell wanted as Broly's hair spiked up. He was actually getting caught by surprise as he was dragged across the mountain and thrown into a sea of green beasts trying to eat him. Cell was having the time of his life, dodging the mouths coming his way and slicing across Broly's chest, causing blood to trickle down. But Broly's power simply rose, slamming Cell down to the ground. As the dust settled, Cell rose up, this time in his potential unleashed state. The fight went on for a while, until it seemed like Broly had reached its peak. Cell was disappointed. The dragon promised him a real match. He was getting so close to the feeling he had while fighting Gohan. Gohan, that's it! Cell smirked as he turned to look at Paragus. In a flash, Cell snapped forward, firing a blast at Paragus and disintegrating him. This had to be it. Just like with Android 16, he would be able to battle the strongest version of his enemy. Cell laughed joyously as he felt Broly's power increase. However, that power didn't stop increasing. Cell actually took a step back as he saw Broly's hair turn golden and rushed to him. Cell blocked the attack, but the punch shook him to his very core as everything around him crumbled to the ground. The two continued to fight violently, with Cell doing everything he could to protect himself. This was much more dangerous, but Cell could keep it up, right? Cell burst his maximum power, burning Broly's skin with his energy. He started to return all the strikes, every single one of them, with equal or further force, finishing his combo with a kick that sent Broly far away. But the legendary Super Saiyan quickly recovered in his stance and rushed towards Cell, landing a punch that made most of Cell's body crack. It seemed that this power didn't have any limit. It was getting stronger by the second, and soon enough, it would reach Cell. Cell returned a headbutt that shattered his forehead crystal even more, but it made Broly out of balance. the bio-android jumped and made some distance, spawning several Cell Juniors to assist them in battle, each and every single one of them being similar in strength to him. All of the Cell Juniors started to cover Broly as they attacked, the legendary Saiyan losing his vision quickly, and Cell just kept spawning Cell Juniors. He would try to suffocate him, but his heart sank as he saw a burst of green energy vaporize every single one of them. Broly was surrounded by a green sphere. Cell, in desperation, started to charge a Kamehameha with all of his energy, every single last drop of it, throwing it against the green Goliath. But he countered with a mouth beam, both beams clashing, but it was pointless. As Cell saw how the combined beams started to approach, even if he was putting all of his energy into it, he knew it was over. He had underestimated his rival. He wanted to fight the strongest version of him, and in that he had lost in the eagerness to fight. He made the same stupid mistakes Goku had made long ago. As he watched his own blast come against him, he looked into Broly's eyes. He had seen those eyes before, in only one man, Son Gohan. He couldn't believe that he would leave this life as he began it, fighting against the Super Saiyan. This was the same mistake he made the first time, encouraging his enemy to become the most powerful version of himself. But in a way, Cell was happy. This is what he wanted. He wanted to fight another Gohan. He wanted to be killed by his ultimate enemy, a fight that would ultimately satisfy him. He died by the hands of the only person who gave him an exhilarating battle like this. Not too strong, like Beerus, but not too weak, like the others he fought. They were around the same power. Broly was extremely hurt too. He was bleeding, he was tired. Broly continued to scream in rage, destroying the world around him as Cell died fighting his perfect opponent. But from not very far away, Lord Beerus and Whis watched the fight with a smile. Beerus nodded at Whis, who teleported behind Broly and chopped him on the back of the neck, knocking him out. Whis used the staff to transport Broly over to Beerus' planet. It seemed like he had finally found a Saiyan close enough to a god. But in another world, the soul of Cell appeared at King Yama's desk. Yama smirked at him.
Finally, you brought so many souls here, I think it's time for a little payback.
King Yama opened his desk, with Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, Krillin, and the others jumping out of it. Cell's eyes widened as Goku smirked, transforming into a Super Saiyan 3 with the other Saiyans. Over the years, the Z-Fighters trained all together, and with people even stronger, like the Grand Kai. Super Saiyan 3 may not be that strong in Super, but this is a completely perfected form of Super Saiyan 3 in the powerful dead bodies of the Z-Fighters. In fact, Goku could likely even use Kaioken on top of it at this point. All of them could, as they trained with King Kai. They are sure they can finally get some payback. Cell shook and gulped. He looked at the angry eyes of determination in Gohan. This made him smile, which turned into an increasing laugh. Now this was his perfect life. Cell burst into his potential unleashed state, saying,
All right then, boys. Let our eternal battle begin.
How about that Cell guy, huh? I'm really thinking about doing other videos like this with the other villains, but you let me know down in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed, guys. It was a lot of fun to write. I wanted to make sure that Cell both got his comeuppance, but also got what he wanted. I think in the end, having eternal battles against the Z-Fighters is the most appropriate thing Cell would want. Plus, if they're all dead, Goku and Vegeta are just gonna keep visiting Cell in hell over and over again, training with him, even if he doesn't want to. In a way, they really are the perfect match, aren't they? Also, before I forget, I'm doing a reread of the Dragon Ball manga right now. I want to make my videos as good as possible and improve them. And the first step is rereading the source material. I'm logging my reread on Twitter at SmugStickDB, if you'd like to check out my thoughts. And as always, a huge thank you to the patrons of the channel: Faisal, Al-Sharif, Shaki Rush, Ako, Grim Shadow, Chris Banks, Giovanni Jimenez, Zanos, D-Man for Life, Marlon Gonzalez, KV, Hurt Fanfiction, Blaze9526, Crazed PlayStation CK, Free Flow Highway, Jackie Effing Chan, Ethan Fraze, Mystic Angel, Shane K, Angel MR, True Lightning Striker, Squad 100, Ghost 1571, Kaiser Jirachi, Jonas Paulus, Trent Rules, D-Man Plays 22, Jim Miriam G, Drum Foster, Saliel Paranjape, Keith Grimes, Celestia, and Samuel Randall. Thank you so much for the love and support as always, guys. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at SmugStickDB and join the Discord in the description below. Until we meet again, see ya!